3, 2, 1. And that was Prince Kiss. How fitting, because tomorrow either Governor Newsom will continue to be the governor of California, or it will be the leading Republican candidate. How many, regardless of how many votes they get. Now, the California recall is set up in a way, and I believe it will change if Gavin Newsom stays in office, which is looking pretty good right now. But as it stands right now, the incumbent needs to get 50% of the vote, and there are 47 people on the ballot, right? The incumbent needs to get 50% of the vote, or the leading Republican candidate wins. I don't care if he got 10% of the vote. So California, the largest, most populous, most powerful, most wealthy state in the country, will be governed by a guy that 20% of the people want. And it's interesting because Gavin Newsom, his popularity is like, it went from 53 to 58%. The thing that Californians seem to be the most worried about are the pandemic. Gavin Newsom's handling of the pandemic is at 60% right now. And this recall was brought about because in California, all you need is 1.5 million signatures. And let me tell you, there are enough angry white rednecks to almost try to recall anybody that they don't like. And these people are fueled by the lie that Trump lost, the election was rigged. And the only reason Larry Elder is the leading candidate is he's the closest personification of Trump. He's like Trump if he were dipped in chocolate and had big lips. And so since he is the leading candidate, what you have to decide, and it's clearly a power grab because Gavin Newsom is up for re-election in a year. So Republicans know that in a state like this, pretty much they know that in all of the country in a national election, they can't win. As a matter of fact, they haven't won a national election, a popular vote, in about 35 years. Because they need sleight of hand, they need tricks, they need gerrymandering, they need recalls to win because they don't have any ideas. And their basic ideal is to appeal to a cruel, loud minority. They're cruel. The cruelty is the point for them. Case in point, Larry Elder. He doesn't have any experience in government. He's a failed radio host. I remember they canceled his show in 2014 and then summarily dismissed him. He had no idea why. Now he's on. If I had Larry Elder's radio ratings, I'd kill myself in front of you. That's what I would do. Since he is the leading candidate for taking over the state with the most populous state, the most powerful state, the most wealthy state in the union, we need to know who he is. And what we do know, but since he has no governance, all we can look at is what he said. And we know that he has said that he thought slave owners would be entitled to reparations. We know that when it came to Trayvon Martin, he said he would probably live next to George Zimmerman. He believed that that was something we needed. We need people to be proactive. Let us not remember that Trayvon Martin was a 17-year-old boy whose only crime was walking past a bloodthirsty man like George Zimmerman. That was his only crime. And his Larry Elder's rationale for that was there had been crime in the neighborhood. I live in a pretty wealthy neighborhood, and there's a lot of tedious crime, and guess who commits it? No white guys. The suburb that Trayvon Martin was killed in was a fairly nice suburb. So how do we know that it wasn't little white dudes doing the crimes? How do we know that? But anytime you say crime, the popular notion is that it was black people, and that is why they love Larry Abbott. That is why they love him, because I don't know one black conservative. I damn you if I agree with your perspective, if I agree with your political. They seem to hate black people. And that seems to be the predicate. You can't just have the same ideas I do, but you have to disown your people. You have to be an advocate. When something happens to black people, when Ahmaud Arbery, what is the first thing Candace Owens said? That it was him. He's a thug. He's a criminal. And now 4 of the people involved in that are in jail and risk of going to prison. They didn't say anything about George Floyd. As a matter of fact, when Larry Elder got eggs through about him, conservatives were all angry. None of them said anything about Breonna Taylor. None of them said anything about George Floyd. None of them said anything about any number of these people. But the cruelty is the point with these people. I don't know what Larry Elder would do as governor, but I know as what he said as a 70-year-old man. And chances are, when you're a 70-year-old man and you have your right mind, you're saying what you mean. He said he didn't believe that there should be a minimum wage. He said he didn't believe the things he would do with governance, the things he would do in terms of the border. He said that he believed that black and black people and women complain too much. When accused of sexual assault, he said that woman's too ugly for me to ever try a sexual assault. Do you want, I mean, so if we don't know what you'll do, we have to take what you have said. And what you have said has been a cauldron of, he was so, let me tell you how bad he is, how horrible a human being he is. He did an interview with Piers Morgan, and I actually thought, wow, Piers Morgan's a decent guy. Listen, if you want to make a decision, make one. But not making a decision is making a decision. If you decide that this is the way you want California to go, if you want California to be a mirror images of what's happening in Texas and Mississippi and South Dakota with COVID and Florida with COVID, where you have governors who have turned it into the Hunger Games, then go ahead. Because Larry Elder only is on the ticket, not because of his qualifications, it's because he's an amplification of the hate and vitriol and animus that Donald Trump, and Donald Trump got his ass whooped in California. He could never win here. Matter of fact, Republicans in general came. Last Republican that won in California was Arnold Schwarzenegger. And look exactly what the governor did to California. Look what happened. Because they seem to be enamored with radio hosts and game show hosts. And people who are inexperienced. If you look at the last two inexperienced presidents, George Bush was inexperienced. Look what happened. We're still dealing with the ramifications of the horrible decisions he made. Look at Donald Trump and what he's done. They seem to believe that your only qualification for a leadership position is to amplify their fear and their hate. And I'll tell you the truth. There seems to be no bottom with their ilk. There's no bottom with Trump. Nothing he won't do. If he fondles a girl, that's locker room talk. If he says there's good side there are good people on both sides, well, you know, he was making a equalization. If he starts a riot because he lost, oh well, there's nothing to say. There is no bottom with those people, and much like him, Larry Elders has no bottom. How do you go up with no floor? Let me ask you something. Try to jump up suspended in air with no floor. How do you go up? How can you proceed with a person who only wants to go backwards? And if I can't judge you by what you have done, I have to judge you by what you say. And I would assume that if you're a 70-year-old man with big lips and a afro, you're pretty much saying what you mean. Now, if you decide that that is the way you want California to go, that's one thing. If you decide that it's not, that is another. Not saying anything is saying that's the way you want California to go. I already have voted no on the recall. And I think that Larry Elders is the perfect. He couldn't get elected in Mississippi. He couldn't get elected in Texas. He couldn't get elected in Florida. He could only get elected in California by sleight of hand. And that is why they do the things they do. Joe, if you are disagreeing with Newsom, he is up for election in less than 12 months. So how do you want to proceed? Do you want to trust a dude who has told you? Because remember the last time we put a guy in office that didn't have an experience, and they said, oh, he'll mellow out, he'll change. He can't really mean all those things. What happened? Last time a man like that was in office, they stormed the Capitol, and they said they were tourists. You cannot go forward with a man who only wants to go backwards. You can't go up with somebody who wants to drag you down. That's a little note from the GED section. We got a jazz report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the Hughley Show.